Today we're going to demonstrate a tear down on a 461-57S. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure you isolate the regulator and bleed off all gas so that you have no gas within the chambers. Make sure that you close your inlet valve, drain all gas, close off your outlet valve. Okay? Disconnect your control line. So the next thing we're going to do is take all the spring pressure off of your diaphragm using a crescent wrench, going counterclockwise. Loosen your spring adjustment screw as well as your lock nut. Make sure that all the pressure is off and that your spring adjustment screw moves easily. That time, you can loosen the 8 bolts that hold your spring tower cap on. After loosening those bolts, remove your spring tower cap, remove your gasket, remove your spring adjustment button. Make sure that the ball bearing is intact. Remove your spring. Now we are able to remove our spring tower using an 11/16 wrench and a 9/16 wrench. Loosen the bolts on your spring tower and remove. Lift directly up and set aside. This will reveal your diaphragm assembly. At this time, you want to inspect your diaphragm to make sure there's no problems with it. After being in service in the field, often the gasket is going to stick to the recessed area on the lower diaphragm case. If that is the case, make sure that is cleaned completely off. You can use a putty knife to do this. Be careful not to gouge the metal though. To remove your diaphragm assembly, rotate it counterclockwise. If there's any difficulty removing the diaphragm assembly, where it is not loosening, you can use the nut here to loosen it in case your threads are worn. If you continue to have problems with that, you may need to remove your bottom plate and try to unscrew your valve assembly from the bottom while holding the diaphragm. Set that aside. Next thing you do is remove your bolts from your lower diaphragm case. You will need an extension. Just a short extension should work to do this. There are 8 bolts to be removed. This time, your lower diaphragm assembly can be removed. Gently pull up on this. The valve assembly should fall. Now, at this time, make sure that your tetraseals remain intact. Good work practice is always to return these tetraseals to your lower case. If you have any silicone lube, it is always a good idea to dress the tetraseals with silicone lube. It also helps them adhere to your bottom plate. So next, what we're going to do is we are going to remove our bottom plate. The reason we're going to do this is because we're going to have to inspect our upper orifices, and this will allow enough clearance for our socket to go on our upper orifice. This is a 1.5 inch socket that you use to remove the orifice. So we're going to remove the bottom bolts first on the inspection plate. After removing those, gently drop the bottom plate. Make sure that your bushing for your lower plate is intact. This is basically a stop, and the fork should move easily in and out of this area. Set that aside. So at this time, you should have enough clearance. You can remove your top orifice. So again, we go counterclockwise to loosen this. At this time, inspect your orifice. Make sure that there are no nicks or scars. Use your fingernail to run along the edge where it mates to your seat. If you feel any imperfections or any issues, at this time you may want to replace this. Set that aside. Now we're going to remove our other orifice. Remove our orifice. This time, you can inspect your valve assembly. Make sure there is no scoring along the top of the stem. Loosen the valve, lock nut, remove your ring, and inspect your orifice. Again, run a fingernail along the edge. If you feel any imperfections, replace the orifice. At this point, we're ready to reinstall our new orifices and seats and possibly our diaphragm.